Hello, one and all. This is the Dealership News Podcast. I'm Kelly Kleinman, and today we have with us Brian Allan, a longtime successful auto biz veteran from the Galpin Group, amongst others, who brought himself out of retirement for the project we're about to discuss. Needless to say, it was an opportunity he did not want to miss out on, and quite frankly, an opportunity that no car dealer in the U.S. or Canada should want to miss out on. The company is called Hyrecar, and they have a system that, among other things, turns slow-moving models, which are normally money losers, into substantial money makers even before they get sold. It's a game changer. Brian Allan, welcome to Dealership News.
Oh, well, thank you very much for that kind introduction, Kelly.
Well, it's my pleasure to have you on board. Tell us about how you got into the automotive industry. Was it something you've had a lifelong interest in, or did you suddenly wake up one morning in the twilight zone?
No, it was really, frankly, it started with Hot Wheels. So I was in my early ages of 5, 6, 7 years old, starting to trade Hot Wheels, and had no idea it would parlay into actually selling bigger cars. But I always loved the car business, and after I had my newspaper route, I would go, grew up in Hollywood, California, and I would go bum around the auto shops, and I would help them clean up, and always at the end of the day, all the hardworking body men and people would have this mess, and I'd say, hey, I want to be around these cars and learn your craft. And so I learned a little bit of the body craft underage. They didn't pay me anything, but they'd throw me a bone and buy me lunch. And then that parlayed into a company called Beverly Hills Mustangs in Beverly Hills that started in the late 70s restoring Mustangs as they just started becoming a popular restoration product again. And that's actually where I bought my first car. I bought a 67 Mustang GT Fastback, which was wonderful. And then frankly, on my birthday, on my 18th birthday, I went and applied for a job selling cars, and I went through 5 interviews. I started selling cars on my 18th birthday, and I went to Beverly Hills Lincoln, and then in 85, I joined the Galpin, what became the Galpin Group. Bert Bachman bought it in 88, and I was with Bert from 88 to 2018, and I opened up 9 of his 12 brands, and it just was wonderful. Bert Bachman's a legend in the industry, and frankly, I felt like I was paid well to get a doctorate degree in automotive retail. And it was a tough decision to retire in essence, but frankly, I saw some trends in the automobile industry that I really wanted to leverage. I thought I'd retire for a couple of years and put some things together, but I had a program where I felt I could solve some pain points of stores with idle inventory and helping dealers make money with resources they already have. And that's ended up why we're talking today.
Of course, Bert Bachman went on to found the legendary rock group Bachman Turner Overdrive. Kidding, he did not.
So I don't think he did that, but he founded a lot of things. Just for the audience's pleasure, Bert Bachman really was the father of consumer leasing in the automotive retail world. He started in the late 60s, and it wasn't short-term leasing. Ford Credit then came out in the early 80s, and that's when I learned about a man who was really the father of short-term leasing, and this is going to be relevant to our conversation. Trust me, this will circle back. But really, Ford Credit joined forces with a man named Eustace Wolfington in a program called Pre-Trade, and it was the concept of a 2-year lease on an automobile, and the whole marketing program was you can change cars when your friends are changing tires. And what I didn't realize at the time, that was the forefront and the beginning of what today is being called flexible ownership or flexible leasing or subscription services. And Bert Bachman leveraged Ford Credit's program that Eustace Wolfington from Pre-Trade laid out and became the largest leasing dealer in the world. And frankly, that is one of the secret sauces to Galpin Motors being the #1 Ford dealer in the world, because of getting customers to come back to the dealership every 2 to 3 years instead of 5 and 6 years. So, and that'll circle back to what we're talking about in a second, I'm sure.
So then you're sort of already giving us a little bit of the backstory behind Hyrecar, so, and how you got involved. So why don't you just go ahead and go into that?
Well, here's the thing. Being in retail for 39 years, almost 40 in a few months, I realized there were some pain points and some really ironic business opportunities that the car dealer, the car world in retail had not leveraged. And let me go outside the car business a little bit. If you think of real estate, I think pretty much everybody agrees that real estate is a darn good investment. And everybody that I've talked to says if I could do it all over again, I would have bought more real estate. And the reason why is because real estate gives you reoccurring revenue on an asset. And now with technology, I realize, wait a minute, if we can take idle inventory that a dealership already has, and actually some inventory that it qualifies, and I'll explain that in a minute. Imagine if we can have, instead of a one-time sale where a dealer today is lucky to net 2 or 3% profit, you can have, instead of selling a car once every 3, 4, 5 years, you can get revenue off that same car every month. Now, it sounds a little crazy, but frankly, there is a huge demand now today because of the ride-sharing industry and the mobility services industry that there's a ratio of, on average, 5 to 6 drivers that need an automobile to get in the ride-sharing industry compared to the cars that are available or that qualify for the various platforms like Uber, Lyft, Postmates, you name it. There's almost a new idea coming up every day for transportation as a service. So who owns these cars? Well, car dealers on average have a fleet of used cars. They have a fleet of loaner cars, and then they often have trade-ins or aged inventory that they need to liquidate, and often liquidate at a loss. So just follow me here on this one. Imagine if a platform existed that said, hey, you know that car that's been a 90-day unit and you're about to sell it at a $2,000 loss because your controller said that's a hard and fast rule, wholesale it? What if you said, oh, I'm going to put it on a platform and I'm going to make $1,000 a month on this car to offset what may be the future wholesale loss, and now it's a revenue source. And basically, we realized the concept at Hyrecar that the odometer used to be the measure of a vehicle's value. Today, we can prove that revenue is the measure of a vehicle's value, just like real estate investors figured out a long time ago. So now we have dealers that, frankly, as we're going into a declining market of private ownership, and you can read all kinds of articles, it might be 10%, it might be 20%. Matter of fact, I was at a presentation at NADA last week where one group was saying that 30% decline by 2023 of private ownership. Well, here's the good news. That's going to be offset by mobility ownership, where large fleet owners are going to have cars for the transportation service industry, otherwise known as mobility as a service or MaaS. So now Hyrecar has that platform to connect the drivers with inventory that's either idle or it's inventory that a dealer wishes to earn revenue on. And we can talk a little bit more about that.
This is almost the greatest interview I never had to do. You're awesome. Let me ask you a question. Let's back up because there's a lot in that, which is interesting.
There is.
We should get into. Yep. But let's say you only had 30 seconds. See, that was about 6 minutes. But if you had just 30 seconds to pitch, because, I mean, I love it, but there's, of course, I've got some little pushback here at the bottom of the interview here. But let me ask you a question on the 30 seconds. So I'm a GM. I'm a president of a big dealer group who doesn't work with you yet. What would that 30-second pitch sound like?
Okay, I guess let me regroup on this sec. All right, so I'm in the elevator, 30 seconds. I'd start with, Mr. Dealer, fellow dealer, are you making enough money on your new car departments and used car departments and parts and service departments? Are you happy with that income that you got today? Well, I think the vast majority of people, even if they're profitable, will say, no, I'm not happy. I said, if I had a program that could leverage assets you already own, real estate you already own, people you already employ, and have no capital investment and increase your revenue, would you hear me out? I think the vast majority of people would hear me out. And I would say, let me put it this simple. The airline industry's figured out something, and that was they don't care how far or how often a plane flies. All they care about is that it's in the air, because airline companies only make money when the plane is flying. Now they may stop and say, okay, what does that have to do with the car business, cowboy? And I'd say, because you have cars that are depreciating on your lot, whether they're being driven or not. And I've got a program that allows you to not only earn revenue to offset that depreciation, but actually exceed the depreciation, and you will earn a profit on depreciation because of the rideshare market demand and the growing demand. And then I just stop right there and I let the questions fly. So I don't know if that was 30 seconds or not.
No, it wasn't, but that's okay. It's all right. Let's start off with, let's go from a rideshare driver's angle. Let's just start with, the user. How does the Hyrecar program compare to, look, there's obviously a much bigger picture here. It's a moneymaker for the dealerships. It's the true definition of 100% or as close to as you can get fleet utilization, monetization, etc. But if I'm a driver, if I'm just a dude or a gal who, wants to do some Lyft or Uber work, how does your rental program differ from what they offer? And then how does it affect a driver who might not have a serviceable vehicle on the road at the time?
Well, okay. So yes, are there other services out there that do this? Yes, Uber and Lyft have very agreeable programs that help drivers that don't have cars get cars. Our model is the same goal, helping a driver get a car, but at a very advantageous, with a very advantageous program for the vehicle owner, in this case, the dealer. And this is kind of the separator of the business model. Number one, Uber and Lyft. Uber has a program where they work with fare that works out really well for some drivers. Lyft has Express Drive, but there's a key difference. Number one, they're monthly programs. Our program is daily, weekly, or monthly, and we create something called a path to purchase. And this is a big difference and why the OEMs and the dealers love this. Our platform drivers actually turn relatively fast. They're on the platform 6 to 8 weeks. Now, we have a percentage that have been on it for 3 years, but our goal is to actually help these drivers earn the down payment through their ride-sharing income, and then they buy the car they're either driving or they buy a different new car from the dealer that they got the car from. So our goal is, and I'll be very candid here, renting the vehicle is more expensive than owning your own. So the rental option provides the driver with an opportunity to say, is this something I really want to do? Especially if they don't have a car. And once we do that, once they say, you know what, I like this, then we say, okay, you've been on this platform. Let me show you how we can make it easy for you to actually buy your own car. And we are rideshare driver friendly. We work with the dealers that are participating. So we create a benefit for the OEM in that we're exposing their vehicles to these drivers and the dealer. Then we create another benefit that they're actually buying cars. And we've got data that shows the rideshare driver quality has skyrocketed, the miles on the car that you think they would, because a lot more drivers today are part-time versus when ride sharing started, a lot of them were kind of disenfranchised taxi drivers that were driving 7 days a week for ride share. But now that's a very small percent of the segment of Uber and Lyft drivers. Most of them are part-time. They work 2 or 3 days a week, and they're not putting 10,000 miles a month on the car. They're putting closer to 1,500 to 3,000. So we provide the ability to match the driver with the car for the dealer's needs. So we put cars on the platform and off the platform based on getting the miles, where the dealer then may choose to resell the car, and the dealer wins in both ways. They win by earning revenue on the car, and then they earn with the ultimate sale of the car.
Do you anticipate any kind of pushback from OEMs who may object for any reason that a dealership is facilitating the designation of a new car to a used car in such short order?
No, and here's what's ironic, that has only become something in the last few years. Manufacturers today actually are often calling dealers at the end of the month and saying, hey, we have a special program. If you buy 20, 30 X vehicles, we'll give you an incentive, and then you give them out on a loaner program or a rental program, and when they hit a qualifying mileage point, usually it's somewhere between 2 and 10,000 miles, you can then sell them as used cars. And this has become a unique way to not only keep the factories humming, but also to create a dealer's dream, to realize a dealer's dream of creating their own used cars. So we actually have dealers on the platform that accelerate the mileage qualification from these, what we call program cars, and we put higher mileage rideshare drivers in them so that they can get the qualifying miles in a shorter period of time, and the dealer can put those on their used car lot, sell them as certified pre-owned, and then they order more cars from the factory. So everyone wins. Oh. By the way, the driver really wins because they're typically getting a new car or a very low mileage car, and the platform drivers love it. I mean, the platform, Uber, Lyft, and various others like it because newer cars are on the platform, which elevates their brand.
So why does a dealer need Hyrecar? Isn't it something that if it takes off, any OEM or dealer for that matter can implement on its own if it's so inclined?
Yes and no. Yes, they can implement it. And here's what I love to say. There's a lot of people that are making money selling hamburgers. That's not an exclusive market. The difference is your brand and your customer base. Hyrecar today has, actually, let me start at a higher altitude here. 50,000 rideshare drivers apply for a platform a month in the nation today. And at 50,000 the base, it's well over that in some months. We had a huge spike in December because of the government shutdown. We had a bunch of unemployed government people that wanted to be a driver for a period of time. But take that anomaly out. Hyrecar's brand, we get 20,000 of that 50,000 because we've been in business, the only ones doing it initially for a while, for 3 years. Hyrecar went public in June, and now our brand recognition, and because we're public, gives us a huge competitive advantage. And frankly, we've bumped our heads and we've learned, and we now know where the warts are and we know where the wins are. And now we've been able to go to the OEMs and the banks and say, here's the good, bad, and the ugly. We can almost eliminate the ugly so that everything else is a win-win for everybody. So Hyrecar's win is, yes, we have innovative technology. We have innovative insurance solutions. We have rights to some of that stuff. And we have the connections to the OEMs and the dealers that gives them the confidence to help us launch them into the mobility industry.
So the reason I ask that is because I haven't looked at what Ford stock shares are right now, but let's say they're, hovering the $8, which is hard to believe. And, and I see you guys go from $1 to $4, and I'm thinking, gosh, the only time I go from, 8 to 12 or 8 to 11 and a half or whatever is when there's a hurricane and, we sell a lot more Fords, right? So
right.
If these guys, I'm a brand, I'm Ford, I'm better known than Hire. I don't want to give anybody any ideas. I'm going to retract that question. I like you. I'll stop right there. So, okay, so let's get back to, I'm not giving anybody any idea. I think you guys are doing a great job. This is pretty exciting, actually. And I get with the whole branding thing, and someone's got to set it up. Usually the first one in succeeds. The second one in has the path paved for them a little bit clearer, but nonetheless, you guys get the lion's share of market share, so to speak. So, what kind of logistical or operational practices need to be implemented as a dealership segues into more of a mobility store as opposed to a traditional car dealership using hire cars?
Well, here's the beauty of it, and because of my retail experience, I can say this absolutely with confidence and knowing that it works. These drivers, the rideshare drivers that are looking for a car, they're not shopping around. They're looking for someone to help them get a vehicle that will instantly make them employed, and the vehicle is their office. And so if they find a dealership that is rideshare friendly, can help them get into a car today and on the platform, and then show them a path to purchase that they can buy that car, it's no different than really an internet sale, because today we have internet departments in dealerships, and this is why I can say there's no additional resources needed. The stores that we launch, we say, let's have your internet department handle these customers, and instead of delivering them a car once and saying goodbye and having to talk to people 20 times before you even get them in the store, you simply tell them which car you have available for them to come pick up right now. They come pick it up, and it's a quick handover. That the paperwork is done digitally. So it's the best of all worlds. You get a super high closing ratio. Well over 90% of the people that we vet, we do a criminal background check, we do a driver's license due diligence. We make sure these people are going to be a good custodian of the car. Oddly, credit isn't the full measure. It's more of a character value, a custodian value. So we deliver those to the dealership, and they handle them just like an internet lead. So it's not a whole nother way to do business. You don't have to add more stoves to the kitchen. You don't have to add more chefs. And for dealers that have rental divisions, this makes it even easier, because this isn't a far pivot from a rental division. It's just more strategic. You're putting cars on the platform for a specific period of time, for a specific reason, earning revenue, then pulling them off when the dealer wants to. And of course, we have technology that makes this all automated, and it really makes it foolproof. But it again, just you think of Airbnb. It's Airbnb for rideshare drivers. We align people, dealerships with drivers, with dealerships, with inventory for the platform, idle inventory, or purpose-acquired inventory. By the way, there's a whole other benefit that helps the dealer pay more for trade-ins, but we can talk about that later if you want to.
I would actually go with it right now while we're on a roll.
Okay. So here's something that we developed, and I thought of the concept, but when it proved out, I was really excited. And that's this. Today, when I go to appraise a 90,000-mile 2014 Honda Accord, I look at it, and my first thought is, I'm probably going to have to wholesale this, or I'm going to have to turn it quickly, high miles, blah, blah, blah. Now, we have the opportunity for a dealer to look at that car and say, you know what? The rideshare driver doesn't care how many miles are on the car. All they care about is that it's in good cosmetic condition and it's mechanically sound. And now I look at that as a revenue source, because the dealer gets 45, depending, the dealer prices it, but $35 to $50 a day, depending on the car, is what the dealer earns. So let's just say on average that's $1,000 a month. So that 2012 Honda Accord or 13 that had 90,000 miles, I'm not looking at retailing it for $2,000 and maybe netting 100 or 200 out of it. I'm looking at getting $1,000 a month revenue, because the rideshare driver doesn't care about the miles on the car. Now let's go to the other spectrum. This really gets fun. Let's say someone trades in a 2012 Honda Accord with 15,000 miles on it. Suddenly, that car is worth a lot more to me because I can put it on a rideshare platform, and I have what I call mileage elasticity. And that is, the market's expecting that vehicle to have 70 or 80,000 miles on it. I can put that on the platform for a year and make $12,000 incremental revenue, and I still have the car to sell at the end of the term that I take it off the platform, and still probably be able to sell it and make an additional $2,000. So I can pay more for trade-ins to make new car deals and used car deals, but I like to say new car deals, because I'm not looking at the trade for its raw odometer value. I'm looking at it for its revenue value. And that is a game changer for automobile dealers and, frankly, the OEM, because now I'm more aggressive on trade-ins, and if I can give people more equity in their car, they have more down payment, and you see how that whole cycle benefits everybody. It benefits the customer, they're getting more for the car. It benefits the dealer, they're selling more cars. It benefits the OEM because they can make more cars.
Very interesting. So let's bullet point some of the benefits here. I've got dealers make money on slow-moving new models. They segue a rental.
Well, and it's not just slow-moving. The only thing I want to add, it's not just slow-moving. It's anything that is rideshare qualified, SUVs, sedans. We're starting a luxury division now for luxury dealers and luxury dealers can sit on cars for 8 or 9 months, a used car.
Oh yeah.
Imagine having, it's ridiculous. And imagine earning revenue on that. So it's a game changer for the luxury people that sit on idle inventory forever. You're taking up real estate. You've got your porters washing and waxing the car every other day. Yeah. Just think if airlines were parked for 2 months before being flown. What airline industry would survive?
That's funny. We're right behind the Lamborghini dealership. I see it all the time.
Right.
The same models.
Yeah, they move them around. They move them around to make it look like they sold something.
So there you go. Dealers make money on any car that's of value. Segue a rental driver into an ownership or possibly as a leasee. Make money or leaser. Make money on low mileage used cars as well before they're sold. Minimal or no overhead costs, and are more engaged with the local community, something that we haven't mentioned. You're helping create jobs, and you're becoming more engaged with those within the community who need the work or who look to you for solutions to their economic woes. I think that's a win-win.
Absolutely. And what you just said is another initiative that we're doing. We're going to communities where they have able-bodied people that are willing to work, and they pass background checks, and we say, we can help you get a job today. And, I was just at another seminar where someone posted a great quote that said, mobility is the way out of poverty. And it is. It's a fantastic opportunity.
Wow. You know what? That's actually very well put. So I think we've covered most of the tentacles on this octopus. It's pretty impressive. Where's Hyrecar going to be in 5 years, Brian?
I think Hyrecar has a couple of pivots coming, and only because we're a public company, I can't share as much of the excitement as I really would like to, but I can throw out a thought starter, and that is, just think, ride sharing today, most people think of moving people or moving packages. Mm-hmm. But transportation as a service is going to change almost anything that moves. And here's the beauty, actually. See, dealers typically, and OEMs even, are grappling with the fear of, is mobility as a service going to hurt my business or help it? And we have figured out that the dealers are in the best position to serve the industry and profit from it. And so to go back to your question, something that was published yesterday by Lyft, which I thought was fantastic. It's called liftimpact.com, if any of your listeners want to look at it. But it's how positive the rideshare industry has been with helping people improve their lives that have been otherwise immobile. For example, one of the things they published was that 29% of Lyft rideshare users, the passengers, are using it to go to the doctor for doctor's visits that they say they otherwise would not have gone to because they couldn't take a bus or private or other public transportation. It was they were not mobile enough, or it was just too inconvenient. Then you have the impact of helping people get an income that are otherwise very employable, but yet they just haven't figured it out, and they didn't have a car to do it. So we provide the car, Uber, Lyft, and these other services provide the job, and that really feels good. And there are many pivots to that. One I think I can share is custodian value. We have so much data now that drivers can earn what we call a custodian value that they can carry from platform to platform. And that is, how good did they take care of the car? Because a lot of people have a perception that rideshare drivers beat cars up, but they don't. And we have the data to prove it. They think that they're more aligned with the taxi industry, where they don't have a close affinity with the car. A rideshare driver has a very close affinity with their car, and they have to earn points and ratings to get more benefits and income from the rideshare platforms. So that you see them armor-alling tires, they've got all-weather floor mats, some have seat covers, bottled water. I've got some they're driving a Toyota Prius and they're wearing a chauffeur suit. There's pride, and they take care of the collateral, which is the car, which makes the banks happy, makes the dealer happy, and it's a great ecosystem with a lot more legs.
Well, Brian, I really do want to thank you and appreciate you coming on board. This is Kelly Kleinman. This is the Dealership News Podcast. You've been listening to Brian Allen wax philosophic on a great new company called Hyrecar. I suggest you do some serious research into the potential, especially if you have a dealership and want to move forward into the century. That's about it, folks. We'll be back here. Just keep on checking in, and we'll talk to you a little bit later in the week. Kelly Kleinman, Dealership News Podcast, signing off.
When I'm mobile.